Fast forward a day later, you've got Michael Block in full Happy Gilmore outfit. And so, I mean, he had to literally get his hair cut, and they stick the beard on him, and he gets all in the thing, and he's doing the swing. And, they take one look at it, and they're like, yeah, he's not going to work. He's too tall. And I felt so. He's like, go tell Michael Block you're out. I'm like, no.
He's like, I just got my hair cut for this.
He got his hair cut for this. He died, and he flew to New York, and he's going to fly back home looking ridiculous with the haircut.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Vanity Index podcast, powered by JLab. I'm Wells Adams, and today's guest is the reason your non-golfing friends suddenly know who the hell Joel Dahmen is and might even have an opinion about the FedEx Cup. He's a co-creator and executive producer of Full Swing on Netflix, the show that gave us the behind-the-scenes drama, emotional breakdowns, and Rory McIlroy's media training all in 4K. He recently launched his own sports entertainment studio, Pro Shop, where he's cooking up golf content that's smart, cinematic, and just the right amount of unhinged. Oh, and did we mention he's working on a little movie called Happy Gilmore 2? That's right. From PGA Tour politics to Shooter McGavin's revenge arc, this guy's living every golf sicko's dream. So whether you're here for golf gossip, Hollywood hijinks, or just want to hear how Chad convinced Adam Sandler to pick up a 9-iron again, grab a drink from the cart and settle in. We're having on the show today the one, the only, Chad Mumm.
Wow. I was really excited to join this podcast. It's an honor to be here. Where's your co-host?
I don't know. He's hung over somewhere in New York. He went to some premiere last night. Listen, I thought you like my intro so much. I figured we needed to give you one.
I was not expecting that, so that's awesome. Thank you. It was what a nice way to start. Now I know why our guests always get like a warm smile that slightly turns into annoyance because there's like more paragraphs coming. It's everybody loves to be flattered, but it's just like we just take it to the next level. So that was great. Oh my God, I love it. Yes, it's true. I'm in New York City right now, sitting in like the 50th floor of a hotel overlooking Central Park. Where last night we had the world premiere of Happy Gilmore 2, a project that I've been working on for about a year at this point, and it just brought the house down. It was awesome. So we're going to talk all about it. So by the time this episode comes out, Happy Gilmore would have been live on Netflix for, 5-7 days. So before we get going on this, and Wells and I were talking about it before we started the recording, he's going to interview me like I'm a guest, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate the intro.
Yeah.
He has not seen the movie yet, but he will by the time this has come out, and this is going to be just full of spoilers. So like massive spoiler alert. If you haven't watched Happy Gilmore 2 yet, please pause this episode, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening to it on Apple or Spotify. Pause it right now. Open up Netflix, hit play. I promise you it's the first thing. You can't miss it. Watch the movie, then come back to this because we're gonna reveal all the big plot points. We're gonna talk about behind the scenes and how it all came to be. And yeah, I'm so pumped for everybody to see it. So let's get started.
How did this all come about, and how did you become involved?
So obviously I've got a long relationship with Netflix and the sports team there from Full Swing, and they had, greenlit the movie. I guess Adam, they were thinking about doing a sequel from like right after the first one came out. And he had not been ready to do it for sort of 25, 30 years. They finally got the script in a place that he felt really comfortable. And when you see the movie, I think I guess you'll have seen the movie if you're listening to this. You really get it because the whole plot is like he's old now and washed up. And it's his kind of attempt to come back to help his family, which is kind of the same arc from the first movie, to help his grandma. In this case, it's his kids and his daughter, trying to send her to ballet school. And so I think he just, it took a long time for him to get the script in a place that they really liked, but it's him and Tim Herlihy. Tim has written like every iconic, Sandler movie from like Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore 1 to like, Waterboy and like all the good Sandler comedies that you remember from like the 90s and early 2000s. It was all Herlihy. And so they wrote this one. So I got involved last summer because Tim was looking to do some research for, the script, and they had a version of it. I think it was like version 20. I mean, they had a lot of versions of the script. And so he had come out to the PGA Championship, which is at Valhalla, And we actually met on the Friday that Scotty had been arrested. So it was like the funniest possible scenario to meet like the writer of this movie. And I'd gotten connected to him through Netflix, and they just said, hey, can you show him around? I know you guys have your full swing cameras filming, maybe take him to the locker room, take him around, give him some stories, like help him bring the world of pro golf to life. And so we got to know each other, and he really wanted to make the movie, Adam and Hurley, he really wanted it to be more authentic. They wanted the golf to be more real. They wanted a lot of cameos. There's a million cameos in this movie, not just golfer cameos from like obviously Eminem and Post Malone and Bad Bunny and Travis Kelce, and it just goes on and on. Margaret Qualley. I mean, there's a million people in this film. But they really wanted the golf to land. And I think he felt like the first one, it was a tiny budget. They kind of made the best of what they had in terms of resources. But this is a big Netflix movie. They had the resources. So he really wanted the golf atmosphere to feel really big. I think about it a lot is like he did the movie Hustle, which is a great basketball movie on Netflix, directed by the great Jeremiah Zager, by the way, Philadelphia's own Jeremiah Zager. And that movie had a ton of real basketball in it, and I think he felt like it made it feel more authentic, and all the golf swing or all the basketball looked really real. Tonally, this is a totally different film. It's goofy, madcap, Happy Gilmore comedy, but he wanted the golf to be more authentic. So after I met the writer and kind of told him a bunch of behind the scenes stories and all the little things that you might not get unless you're kind of on the inside of pro golf. He called me back and said, hey, we're really looking for kind of a golf advisor for the movie, and then somebody to help us get all these pros. And he's like, we have a lot of cameos written into the film. So I interviewed for the job just like anybody would. I definitely didn't convince Adam to put a 9-iron back in his hand. They were already going to do this movie. I got added on, quite late in the game. But it was interesting because they had been meeting with a bunch of the agencies in golf. There's a bunch of golf like management companies, and so they were talking to a bunch of the kind of lead of all the agencies, and my pitch to them was like, listen, I don't work for an agency. I can get kind of to everybody, and I can help you navigate this world. I can work with the governing bodies to get your rights if you need it, and we'll just make this thing really, really fun. So it all really started at the Friday that Scotty had been arrested. And then a month later, I found myself in the Palisades having, going to go meet with Adam's team. I didn't know if I was actually going to meet Adam or not. So we have this meeting down in a little cafe underneath there, right by the Happy Madison offices. And it was one of the most surreal meetings I've ever been in, because it was just like rolling cavalcade of like his executives that would come into the cafe. We were supposed to be having breakfast. I was supposed to be meeting just with his producer, Jack G, who's like the main producer on the movie. And Jack was there for like 5 minutes, and then he's like, his phone rings. He's like, oh, I gotta go. So he just bolts. Another exec comes and sits down, introduces themselves. I kind of start over again, like, here's who I am, here's what I do. 2 seconds later, they get a text, they leave, a different person shows up. It was like this, I thought I was being punked, because every 10 minutes a new person would sit down and be like, so what's your name? It was a completely like madcap version of an interview. And then out of nowhere, like 3 of them all come back, and they all sit around, and they're like, I'm so sorry, can you just start over?
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and I'm like literally 5 seconds into explaining what I do, and Adam walks into the cafe, clearly looking for these 3 execs, like whatever was going on. He looks around, sees them, comes over, locks eyes with me, and points at me and goes, handsome. This is the first thing Adam Sandler ever said to me. And he was like, hey, pal, I gotta, I need these guys, but why don't you just come up to the office? So we go up to the office. They, deal with whatever fire drill was going on. And we sit down, and he's just like, yeah, man, I want all the golfers in the movie. I want you to come back and read the script. We just want to make it really good. I have a ton of pressure on this movie for myself. Like, this is one of my most iconic characters, and we're going to have an awesome time, man. We're going to have an awesome time. So I went back a week later and read the script. Kind of also a very surreal experience, because the plot was super locked down forever, and nobody kind of knows until the movie is out. Like, no one knows that, Virginia Bennett dies in the first 2 seconds of the film. Happy kills her with the errant drive on Mother's Day, and that sort of sets the motion, set the plot off in motion. So I go in to read it, and it's like on a giant screen, because they had this lockdown computer that had the script on it, but for whatever reason, like, they wouldn't let me read it on a laptop, so they project, like, they had it on a huge conference room TV, So it's already awkward enough, and I'm sitting there like looking up at this giant screen, scrolling with a mouse, like reading the script. But it was freaking hilarious. I mean, I was like laughing in my chair alone in a room reading a script and taking all these notes. And, I'm like, here's Jack Nicklaus, here's Nick Faldo in the script, here's, Bryson and Rory and Scotty and Brooks, and here's JT and Will Zalatoris. And afterwards, Adam's like, do you think we could pull it off? And it's like, yeah, let's go. So that was midsummer. And then, fast forward, a couple months, it's October. We're filming the whole film in New Jersey. And I had gotten 27 of the golfers, the past and present, LPGA, LIV, PGA Tour, to show up on set. And I'll never forget the first day. It was like, I can't believe it happened because, these guys, it was Justin Thomas and Will Zalatoris were the first players on set. And, we had Will on the show, obviously. And, their star trailers are there. They showed up. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. And so from that period on, it was like a month and a half, every single day, sun up to sundown, a new kind of parade of golfers and cameos kind of rolling through. And so it was awesome. I mean, everybody wanted to do it because it's Adam Sandler, and they all grew up with this movie. The challenge was just getting everybody in the same place at the same time. And then obviously like everyone's got their schedules and it's making a movie is very different from making like a Titleist commercial. These are like long days. And so I think a lot of players were shocked by just how much work it was, and you sit there and you work a scene for 4 hours and then, they just keep changing the camera angles. And then it's like, okay, it's lunch for 5 minutes, like a working lunch. And then we're back in again for another 5 hours. And, but they had a blast. They did great. So many of the guys, I think, totally exceeded expectations in terms of their sort of acting ability. And, Adam makes it so easy on him he just makes the vibes so good. But, they crushed it. I mean, they freaking crushed it. It was so much fun. And then obviously like on top of that, I kind of helped them with all the golf stuff in terms of like getting this, I brought their set decorator to the US Open to design, so they could really design the scenes and make it feel like a big championship and the way that, the tournaments are laid out. And then also just making sure they had the right golf equipment. I set them up with all the equipment companies. It was funny. I got to ask Titleist, I was like, we need like 5,000 golf balls because we were going to hit so many balls. So they did. They sent us a bunch of balls. We got clubs kind of from every manufacturer. I helped sort of put together a Callaway deal to rebuild the Happy Gilmore the putter. So the famous like hockey stick putter, we did a new one for the sequel, which, is kind of comes in the third act. He's using it in the sort of final scene of the movie. It's sort of a big reveal. And then, obviously he's using a Callaway golf ball in the film. So it was so much fun. And the players just absolutely loved it. And then last night, we had our premiere and we had Scotty Scheffler fly out back with the claret jug. I mean, literally, I'm sitting, it's Monday night, so it hasn't barely been 24 hours since he wins the Open Championship, and he's in the line with Bad Bunny and like Adam Sandler taking pictures with the claret jug in hand.
Is he in the film? Sorry, I haven't seen it. So Is
Scotty
in the film?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Scotty had the biggest laugh last night. I think his
Really?
scene is the best. He got the biggest laugh. Hopefully, it plays just as well in the living room as it did in the big theater. But, he obviously comes in the third act to join the team regular golf to defeat the Evil Maxi League in the challenge by Frank Manatee for the future and soul of golf. Mm-hmm. And Scotty is the sort of leadoff hitter in their match against Harley. And, he obviously punches, hockey fights. Harley punches him out on the first tee, gets disqualified, and then gets arrested again. And obviously spends the rest of the movie in jail, watching the final match on TV with his cellmates. And then I hope if you've watched the movie and you haven't sat through the credits, there's an amazing post-credit scene of Scotty still in jail. So he was such a good sport. When he read the script, he's like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm going to get arrested. They bring the cops out. He goes, oh no, not again. And they take him away in handcuffs. So it's a good sport about it.
Oh man, I'm excited to watch this. So, you were tasked, I think, probably with the most difficult job. It's one thing for Adam Sandler to get actors to come be in his movies, but it's a whole other thing to get athletes to come and be in his movies. And I kind of assume that's kind of like really what your core role was. Mm-hmm. I imagine that there was a list of people that he needed that he had written into the script. How many people was that, and how many were you able to get?
So there was 30, there was like 29 people on the list.
Okay.
And I got all of them except for Tiger and Phil. And Phil, we asked, and they just didn't really ever engage. And then Tiger, I think, probably I kind of heard afterwards that he really considered it. It just kind of didn't work from a schedule perspective. Mm-hmm. But we end up there's some nice homages to Tiger. Obviously, the busts, the brass busts outside the Tour Championship with Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer and Tiger, and then Adam Sandler or Happy Gilmore, and a really good joke kind of late in the movie is like the best golfers of the '90s. It's pretty funny, and it was cool because Mark Steinberg, Tiger's agent, came to the premiere, and he came over afterwards and gave me a big hug and just told me it was awesome. So it was, but we got everybody else. I mean, the hardest one I think was probably Jack Nicklaus, just because
that's a big name, and also he's kind of older. I'm sure he's like, I don't want to go do this.
Yeah, he's older, and like he's still really busy. That was actually the surprising part. A lot of the golfers, we got so lucky, and I don't think this was planned because it was like built around Adam's schedule. But the fact that this filmed for like the 1 month and a half that the PGA Tour and LIV like have off. I mean, basically, if you're a pro golfer, you're playing golf from basically like December or really January all the way until August, and the only downtime that these guys have is kind of September through kind of Christmas, and then a lot of them will play like Tiger's event and stuff like around Thanksgiving, and there's some stuff in December. So if this had been, if Adam's schedule had put this in the spring or the summer, like we would not have gotten anybody. But it was perfect for pro golf because they were just, everybody was in their off season, they were hanging out, so they had time. It was, Jack though is
really, that's what you were there for, is to be like figure out logistics and scheduling. Like, hey, you can't do this during the FedEx, the race, the FedEx Cup. You have to do it there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they started a little earlier, and I just told them, like, we're not going to get any golfers until kind of after the Tour Championship. So a lot of things had to go right from a schedule perspective. The fact that we did it in the off season helped a ton, and then also we got great weather. I mean, that was the other piece of it. We filmed in New Jersey, which was like October in Jersey. The weather could be a huge question mark. It could be freezing cold. It could be raining. It could be early snow. And we got a month straight of sunny days. It was nuts. And I kept telling the production team, like, we've got Rory here for like 7 days, and he's not doing an eighth. Like, it's not like, oh, it's okay, just extend. If we get rained out, like, it's done. Like, you're gonna have to cut scenes. Like, and they were like, no, it'll be fine. Like, they'll hang out. I was like, you don't understand. Like, they're here and they're gone. Like, you're not getting them back. So we got super lucky. We didn't have a single rain out. But yeah, so Jack was, Jack has stayed really busy in his kind of retirement and does a ton of outings and is designing golf courses. And so just getting his schedule to line up was tough. And then it was also hard because his scene is the Champions Dinner scene. So that was actually the busiest scene. I think there's like 12 or 13 pro golf cameos just in that scene alone. So, Brooks, the big four, which is what we called Brooks, Bryson, Rory, and Scotty. That's the sort of third act of the movie. That one is that was like a really tough one to coordinate because those are obviously kind of some of the biggest names in the sport. Getting them all there for 2 weeks was going to be tough. And then the individual cameos like JT and Zalatoris, like that was easier just because it was only two guys. But the Champions Dinner scene, I mean, it was let's see, it's Jack, it's Fred Couples, it's Lee Trevino, it's Corey Pavin, it's Nick Faldo, it's Colin Morikawa, it's Xander Schauffele, it's Keegan Bradley, it's Jordan Spieth, it's Ricky Fowler, it's Travis Kelce, it's Bad Bunny, and Seth Waugh, our good friend of the pod, Seth Waugh, in that scene too. So that one was the toughest one, and get Jack to land on that day was the kind of hardest scheduling feat. But I got to say, like you mentioned, getting athletes to show up for a movie. I don't think, as far as I can tell, I think this maybe is, of any sort of sports movie, this is the most kind of wall-to-wall cameos in terms of like not just like athletes, but like the best players in a sport kind of all in one place in a movie. And it just kind of speaks to the power of Sandler and also just the Happy Gilmore and how much people love it.
Can I ask like a money question?
Yeah.
Are these athletes getting paid, or is it just like, I just want to be in Happy Gilmore, so like whatever?
They did get paid, but a like comically small amount.
So it's like they're getting like scale or something.
Yeah, yeah, it's like scale. So
Yeah.
it's like a meaninglessly small amount for these
Yeah.
guys. And but they were like all in. And for obviously for them it wasn't about the money, but I think part of it was it ended up being a lot more work than they maybe thought it was going to be just because it's like a grind. It's a different kind of grind. But they all had an amazing time, and we treated them well. They had star trailers. It's like great travel, great support, and then they get to be stars when they're on set, which is they're obviously, it's a different environment than being on tour. They're obviously competing with each other when they're playing in golf tournaments, but this was something different, something fun, a different kind of challenge. They had to act, they had to get their lines right. We gave everybody the opportunity to have acting coaches if they wanted. We had this great acting coach who kind of worked with all the players. Some of them worked with them, some of them declined them. But they all showed up kind of ready to go, and it was funny to see them kind of fish out of water a little bit. I loved it personally because normally I'm the one like invading their place of work, with our cameras and just kind of bothering them. And this was kind of the opposite. I was like, you guys are on my turf now.
Who was the best at being an actor, and who was the one who struggled the most?
Will Zalatoris, I think, is the best actor of all the group. He also had the most to do, I think, in terms of playing a real character. A lot of the guys have just kind of reaction lines, and maybe like one or two things where they're sort of inciting a conversation, but for the most part, they're just kind of reacting and sort of playing off of things that are happening, and obviously hitting shots and doing physical comedy and things like that. He had a lot to do, and he absolutely killed it. Like, I think people will be blown away by how good of an actor Will is. It's really funny. And then, I don't want to like point fingers at who's the worst, because there's like, everybody did a good job. I think the big four, like Brooks, Bryce, and Scotty and Rory, like they were more sort of physical comedy, so they didn't have as many scenes to like in terms of dialogue scenes. Their stuff was just like, hey, you're the biggest names in the sport, you guys are the superstars, you get to like act like superstars. So that was fun. But Scotty was a good sport because he getting arrested and put in jail in a movie that's going to be seen by like like a billion people it speaks a little bit to his like self-awareness, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah, well, it already happened to him in real life, so might as well, spoof it on this big screen. Aside from the golfers, there's a lot of cameos just in like the sports world, and then just in Hollywood in general. You got to, I guess, probably meet Travis Kelce, Bad Bunny, all these kind of big names. Do you have any fun stories from getting to meet those guys, the people that are celebrities but not in the golf world?
So the Travis Kelce was hilarious because he was there. He was only there for like a day, and so the day that he was there, it's the Champions Dinner scene. So this was the day that you pull up on set and you see all the trailers for Nicholas and Faldo and Trevino, and it's just like on and on and on of all these iconic players. And then this is when Travis Kelce's there. So Jordan Spieth shows up at set. It was like him and Ricky kind of came together, and they got there at like maybe 7 a.m. and they had probably an hour and a half to kind of hang in their trailer, and then before we got him in hair and makeup. And the first scene we're shooting, it's like 7:30 in the morning, freezing cold. Travis Kelce is shirtless, tied to a lamppost with Bad Bunny like painting honey on him, getting attacked by a ravenous bear as a part of Oscar's Happy Place. And this was I was like, you guys want to come and see like they get to set, they're like, where's Adam? I'm like, oh, we're shooting this scene. They walk over and the first thing they see is Travis Kelce shirtless with honey all over him, and they're like, what are we doing here? This is amazing. The other funny part about Travis Kelce is like he would shoot a scene and then he would go back. Like the only thing he had in his trailer was this like massive like 8-sleep bed, and he would literally like go take a nap after filming. He'd film a scene, and then everyone would go to lunch, and instead of lunch, he would just take an hour-long nap, and then he would come back, film again, and then go back to sleep. And it was just, it's amazing, like, his body was like so banged up and bruised. You just realize how brutal the NFL is, like in season. And for a guy like that, it's like he just sleeps a ton. You're like, it's also, I just love that like Travis Kelce's this big golden retriever, and it's like, I have a golden retriever. He sleeps a lot. It's like, It just felt like exactly what you'd expect. He was so nice. He was so cool, and just like took a lot of naps.
Yeah, I think of it like Ant-Man, when he gets really, really big, he can only do it for so long, and then he gets tired. Like Travis Kelce's just like a really big guy, and he puts out a lot of energy, and then he's like, okay, I gotta take a nap now.
He's gonna go take a nap. Yeah.
you got to go to the premiere, and you had a very interesting date, from what I understand.
Yes, a very beautiful
Tell us
date.
about that.
I brought my daughter, who's 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My family. So this premiere, we my whole family were going on vacation in Italy, and that vacation has been scheduled for like months before the premiere was set. So of course, those overlap. So my wife and two boys were already in Italy, so they left a couple days before the premiere, and I brought my daughter Margot to New York to come to the premiere. But she's actually in the movie, so and didn't expect to be in the movie. So we finished shooting in I guess the last shoot was December 8th, and we went into post production, and about 4 months ago, like deep into the editing process, I get a call from the HG2 team, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna do some reshoots. We're sort of reworking the opening of the movie, and so we really like need you to help us like find a golf course." And they rewrote this new scene for the top of the movie, basically where the Gilmore boys are kind of learning how to play golf. So they're at some golf camp or something, and there's a bunch of kids standing around, and some like douchey, like rich 12-year-old kid hits this great drive and looks at the boys and gives them the like Shooter McGavin fingers and says, "Follow this," and they just like throw their clubs down and just beat the shit out of them. So they needed a golf course for that, and then they needed a douchey kid, and we had like 3 days to set this all up, because we had this like very narrow window to shoot. So we ended up shooting it at Rancho Park, which was in LA. It sort of plays like an East Coast course, and I had to find a douchey kid. So that was a really fun one, because I called all the private clubs in Los Angeles and like talked to all the head pros and said like, "Hey, do you have any like really good," because they needed a kid who could really swing it. So like I was like, "Do you have any good 14-year-old or 12 to 14-year-old kids that also look kind of douchey?" And all of them, like every one of the head pros, Bel Air, LACC, Hillcrest, they were like, "All of our good golfers look douchey." Yeah. It's like, really funny. They're like, they're 14-year-old kids and members of Bel Air, like, Yeah. No, but so it was so anyway, and then it was fun. I actually talked to George Gankis as well, who is a legendary golf coach, and Gankis like brought us the #1 junior in California, actually, and that kid could stripe it. He just looked too young. Actually, they wanted someone who looked a little older, so ended up casting this kid, who I come to find out after the fact is the son of the president of Bel Air, which is really funny. So he got to be it. So I got now I'm friends with the president of Bel Air. So he's got that on lock.
He's gonna find out that you were casting for a douchey kid.
No, he knew that. We told him from the beginning.
Okay.
It's his son. He's proud of him, but he's like, he's a country club kid. And also, we can. That's the magic of makeup and wardrobe. You can make, people look douchey, and he crushed it. He did great. Anyway, so we're doing that, and I'm like telling Margot, I'm like, "Oh, I'm going back to my daughter's name, Margot," and so I was like, "Hey, can we give her a cameo? Can we stick her in the scene somewhere?" So they did. So she's one of the kids reacting to the Gilmore boys, beating the crap out of this 14-year-old kid, and she did great. And so she got to come on set. She got to do hair and makeup. She had wardrobe. She got her little like SAG card, like her extra check, it's like, and she was awesome. So she's actually in the first like 30 seconds of the film. I mean, it's like, you can't miss her. It's like the only girl in that kid scene. And she did great. So I'm very proud of her. So, she got to come to her first premiere. She got to see herself up on the big screen. We cheered when she showed up, and we had an awesome time. So, she got to hang with Sandler and the entire cast, and it was a really, really special memory. I'm sure she'll never forget. It was just super special for me to get to bring her, because it's just like, she's really sharp and a great kid. She deserves it. So it was fun.
Chad Mumm, Nepo dad. Very cool.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you guys get to go to the premiere. Let's do Overheard, presented by JLab.
Yep.
I imagine that the green carpet was just chock full of celebrities. What did you overhear? Who did you talk to? Was there any funny moments that happened during the green carpet?
I think the best Overheard for, if we're going to do Overheard presented by JLab, the best story was before the premiere, I get a text from Fred Couples, he's like, his wife Suzanne is getting her hair done or something, getting ready. He's like kind of bored. So he's like, "What, you want to do something?" So it's like, one, it's surreal that I'm getting a text from Fred Couples. And so I was like, "All right, well, do you want to go get a shave?" Like, let's go get a hot towel shave. He's like, awesome. I've never done it before. So we go down to this nice barbershop here in Columbus Circle in New York. And it's just the two of us. We're getting a hot towel shave. The guy who's doing it, his name's Santiago. There's a big picture right next to the where we're getting shaved. There's like a picture on the wall of Ben Hogan. So I'm like, are you guys golfers? And they're like, no, we don't know about golf. They have no idea. It's Freddie Couples. This guy's like a Masters champion. And the woman who ran the shop, she's like this 25-year-old girl, we're talking about golf. And she's like, wait, are you in golf? We're like, yeah, we're here for the Happy Gilmore premiere. And she's like, I just never understood what it was about golf. I didn't get the hype. She's like, but I just recently started working as a cart girl in the weekends in this golf course in Queens. And so, I'm starting to get a little bit of the hype. I feel like golf's kind of cool. So she's like, so I started watching this show on Apple called Stick, which is about golf. And she's like, I don't know if you've heard of that show. She's like, it's really good. It got me really interested in golf. So then my friend told me I had to watch this Netflix show about golf. So I started watching it. There's this golf show, and it's all about the pro golfers, and they follow it. It's like a documentary. And she's like, and I started watching it. I was like crying. She's like, I think it's called it's Full Swing. And I'm like, and Freddie Couples just like sticks his hand up, and he goes, that's his show. It's like, you can't write that stuff. It's just ridiculous. So that was cool. So and then she was like, oh my God. And I was like, this is Fred Couples. He won the Masters, But his favorite story that I think the best overheard was he was talking about, filming their scenes. And he's like, yeah, the one thing that didn't make it in was we'd been sitting there for 4 hours running our lines. And finally Adam looks over to Sir Nick Faldo and goes, Nick, we'd be done a lot faster if you just read the lines like they're written on the page, because he kept ad-libbing. Freddie thought that was the funniest thing ever. Sir Nick was just like pitching lines and doing his thing. So funny.
What's it like to get a hot shave with the one, the only Fred Couples?
He's the freaking best, dude. He's so funny. We made a video.
Does anyone call him Freddie?
No, so everybody calls him Freddie. He does not call himself Freddie. And his agent calls him Fred. He calls himself Fred. He introduces himself as Fred. So I have to remind myself not to call him Freddie. And I don't know if he'd be like, the name's Fred, but like nobody in his circle calls him Freddie, which is interesting. So I just call him Fred. But it's the best.
Do people just call Scotty Scott? And he's just like, this name is, I can't help it,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, it's
Bobby
interesting.
Jones, was he just Bob? Like, guys, stop calling him. I'm not 12 years old. Stop calling him Bobby.
Bobby. Yeah. But you know what? Fred has like this. He has this like boyish charm to him, and so I think that the nickname like works. Like Freddie actually works because he just has this. I don't know. He has this like zeal for life. I mean, that guy like can work the room. Like he should, if he wasn't a golfer, he'd be like a great politician because he's, but maybe like that's an insult to Fred because he's so genuine. But I've never seen a person more comfortable in a room with people, just kind of gliding around from group to group at the center of everything and not trying to be the center of attention. Like he's just a naturally charismatic person. And it kills me that he's not doing like broadcast commentary because he'd be so good at it. He's awesome. It was fun to watch. One fun thing he told. So we are making a video for the page. So on the Vanity Index podcast channel, it's an Instagram. We're going to do a video of mine and his shave that we did together, which is really funny. But my favorite, besides the Faldo drive by, my favorite thing he said was, we were talking about the Ryder Cup, and I was asking him like, is there anything like playing a Ryder Cup? And he's like, to him, winning a single point in a singles match at a Ryder Cup felt just as good as winning a major. And he's like, I think I would take just winning a singles match like over winning another major. He's like, that's how big of a deal it was. And he said, when I 3-putted the 18th hole, I think it wasn't a Kiowa, but it was one of those Ryder Cups. He ended up he was one up and ended up 3-putting to tie and get a half point. He said he was crushed. He basically like had to have Raymond Floyd come, and they just sat together for an hour because Freddie was just so destroyed by it. It's just. He's like, there's nothing like it. He's like, I would take it over winning another major. Just not even winning the Ryder Cup, just winning a single point. It's amazing. It was a cool line.
Let's go back to the premiere. You walk the green carpet, then you get to go in, you watch the movie. I'm sure you've seen the movie prior. There was probably screeners for you. What was the energy like in the room, before, during, and after? And then what's the after party like after a movie like that with all those celebrities?
the energy, there were people lined up outside the hotel for like 24 hours. I mean, we got in 2 days ago and there was people already waiting outside the hotel for random celebrity, paparazzi autograph seekers. And by the time the premiere happened, we left the hotel to walk around the corner to go into Jazz at Lincoln Center. And it was like, there were like hundreds of people on the street. It was a zoo. And then you go down, you do the red carpet. It's just this big celebration. And I, everything about it is just so on brand for Sandler. Like they were playing like Journey and stuff in the red carpet. It was just like a fun vibe. They had a bunch of like, I guess, extras and people cheering and things like that, and kind of Happy Gilmore-esque garb. They had, the Happy Rules guys with shirtless guys, but just the vibe was really great and really like low key. And they had like Moosehead beer, at the party, which is like apparently I was told it's like the Canadian PBR basically, or like worse than Molson. It's the cheap beer you get in college if you're Canadian. It's just the whole thing was like really chill and low key. And I mean, it was a party, but anyway, so before it's like everyone's there. I think the screening was supposed to start at 7:30. We didn't really get started till about 8 because everybody was having such a good time. It was hard to get everybody into the theater. Everybody crowds into the theater. Bella Bajaria from Netflix kind of introduces it, and she sets it up and introduces Adam, and he just comes out and like just riffs from the heart about like 29 years in the making and how much this means to him and how important it was that he got to have his family in the movie and sort of all the cameos and the favors that he called in. Then you come out and the after party. I mean, we were there till like 2 a.m. There was like an upstairs sort of DJ setup. That's kind of where Adam was hanging out. Then there was like the red carpet, which they turned into this like, kind of golf activation. So you could putt, you could try the Happy Gilmore swing on the simulator. They made a Golden Tee version, a Happy Gilmore version of Golden Tee. They actually built a video game that's Golden Tee golf, but it's Happy Gilmore hitting, and he like runs up and hits. I don't know how it was amazing that they pulled that off. And then the food was like foot long sub sandwiches, and like hot dogs. It's just like really chill.
Yeah, is he still sponsored by Subway? I feel like that was the first one.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. So they're just big hoagies and like 6 foot long sub sandwiches for food, and there's just a lot of pride. And so part of it was really cool to see all the golfers there and all the celebrities there. But what was really special is just all the crew, and you haven't seen them in 6 months, and you're giving you're hugging the costume designer, and like everybody's just so proud because it's like we did this, and in the moment it's like a lot of work, and you're stressed out, and you're trying to make the impossible possible at all times, and you're just like everything is last minute and crazy, and you're like just doing anything you can. The show must go on to make it work. And now you get to kind of celebrate and see it. And so for me, it was really special to see the crew and how proud everybody was.
All right, time for the next segment. Can't Knock It, brought to you by Knockaround. Can't knock a good body double. Do you have some funny stories of who was like the body double for Adam Sandler and his swing and all that stuff?
Well, you got to start off with the golfers themselves. So I think, obviously when we got the players booked, they had to be in their wardrobe. And so we had to work with all their sponsors to get like a bunch of clothes in. And they ended up like sending a bunch of different sizes and fits because every player had a body double who was basically like their stand-in, and then like a stunt double because a lot of them had like physical stunts. And so it was hilarious to see, you got Will Zalatoris' outfits or Justin Thomas' outfits, and there's like 10 versions of that same outfit, with his exact sponsor logos that we had to get embroidered and all that stuff. And so the first time Will met his body double was really funny. So it resulted in this great photo that you see here of Will and his guy doing the Spider-Man meme, pointing at each other. So those guys Will's body double was actually an assistant pro at a golf course. And so they were like comparing swing notes, which was really funny. And so, yeah, everybody had a stunt double and a body double. And then we get to set, and the line producer's like, we got a problem. Adam like hurt his knee, whether it was playing basketball or something like that, and he was worried that he wasn't going to be able to do the running swing as well as he thought he'd be able to. So they're like, we need a swing double for Adam, like ASAP. And by the way, Adam has a body double as well and a stunt double that's like been his guy forever, which is also really funny that like you can make a 30-year career like as the body double for just like one actor, which is really great.
Yeah,
it speaks to like Adam's vibes. He always wants the same people around. But anyway, so this was like a typical day for me. It would be like, okay, I've like somehow gotten all these golfers here. We're on a real golf course. We've got all the clubs set up. We've got all these extras. Oh, and by the way, like let's throw another kind of crazy thing. We need someone who's basically exactly Adam Sandler's height and size, who can do the Happy Gilmore swing. Like, what pro golfer can you get to do that for like 2 months as fast as possible? So we scrambled And so we actually and they were like, fly him out to set, see if they can come tomorrow. And so the first thought I had was like, who can be a Sandler body double that's gonna have enough time to like come and hang? I was like, Michael Block. So
Blocky.
So I text Blocky. I say, hey man, any chance can we fly to New York like today? Can you go get on a flight? It was like, I don't know, it was probably like 9 a.m. So it was maybe noon. I was like, you get on like a 4 o'clock flight and see if you can get to New York tomorrow. We'll get you in hair and makeup and do some camera tests. So, fast forward a day later, you've got Michael Block in full Happy Gilmore outfit. And so, I mean, he had to literally get his hair cut, and they stick the beard on him, and he gets all in the thing, and he's doing the swing, and they take one look at it, and they're like, yeah, he's not going to work. He's too tall. And I felt so. He's like, go tell Michael Block you're out. I'm like, no.
It's like, I just got my hair cut for this.
He got his hair cut for this. He died, and he flew to New York, and he's going to fly back home looking ridiculous with the haircut. But he was a good sport about it, and he just was too tall. He could do the swing, and so the next up on my list, I'm like, who could do this? I'm like, what about Jason Duffner? I was like, Duffner's got like a build that maybe could be Sandler-esque. It's like 5'10", 215, 220, something like that. And so I got in touch with Duffner's agent, and I guess the response was like, I've never been more insulted in my life. Kind of thing. I've never met Jason Duffner. I feel really bad. I might meet him up to apologize to him. But the response, his agent was like, oh yeah, he's going to love that. And then he immediately called me back. He was like, he's extremely insulted that he would like.
Jason Duffner is not in as good of shape as Adam Sandler.
I don't know. I felt really bad. I was like, I don't think this is meant to be an insult at all, but like, appreciate it. So he said no. And then I just like blasted out all the agencies, and I was like, does anybody have like a golfer that can do this? Someone who's, maybe in their late 30s or 40s who could kind of do this swing and has got time. And so I hear back from Wasserman, and they're like, what about Hunter Mahan? And I'm like, Hunter Mahan, by the way, I loved Hunter Mahan actually in the throw all the way back in 2012 when I first pitched the PGA Tour on doing a full swing type thing. I actually I had Hunter Mahan in the deck because I was like, there's this, and it was like Jordan Spieth, who was a rookie. I was like, these are the two characters. They're like the perfect example of like interesting things. So I get in touch with Hunter, and I'm like, hey, do you have any interest in doing this? He's like, dude, yeah, I got nothing else to do. Like, amazing, I'm in. So I'm like, all right, I need you to go and do a practice swing, like doing the Happy Gilmore swing. So, 10 minutes later, I get this video. Hunter Mahan, full rip. Oh, just absolute send monster, blasting it like 285, bang, doing the Happy Gilmore swing. So he, so he gets the job. We get him on a flight like the next day. And he shows up on set, he gets in the hair and makeup, same thing, and he looks ridiculous, the bowl cut and all that stuff. And he's just like, it's uncomfortable if you're not used to wearing like a bunch of hair and makeup and stuff. And so he's just kind of in the Happy Gilmore stuff. And he's sitting in craft services when Justin Thomas and Will Zalatoris are there, and they're all just kind of sitting around, and they're looking, and Justin's like looking at this body double for Sandler, and then he's looking back at him, and then Justin's like, Hunter? And he was like, hey, Justin. And he was like, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? You look like Adam. He's like, I know, I'm the swing double, So anyway, it was just hilarious. He was there the entire time for everybody. And it was like every time a PGA Tour player would be there and Hunter would be standing there, they'd just be like, Hunter? He was such a good sport about it. But he actually, by the time he got to set, like a day or two later, he had rehearsed the swing so much that he actually, like in that first video I showed you, he really has like his swing, it's like really on plane, really pure. He had actually like reworked it to be steeper and the sort of reverse pivot that Sandler does. I mean, he had it mimicked perfect, and it just shows you. And by the way, he was hitting bombs like that, like with the bad form, reverse pivot, just these high cuts. It's just another example of like how elite these golfers are, that like he could not only do the Happy Gilmore swing, he could do like the exact replica of the swing and somehow like hit it on the center of the face and keep it on the planet. And every couple of like days we'd be filming on a set, he would just like take a bucket of balls over to like another adjoining hole and just hit drives like Happy Gilmore style. And he started teaching all the rest of the crew how to do it, which was really fun. So we all got really good at doing the Happy Gilmore swing because we had Hunter Mahan like teaching us. Want to talk about, I think, the thing that's going to be copied by more kids than anything else from this movie, and that is the T throw. So if you remember, obviously, if you were a kid growing up and you watched Happy Gilmore, the first thing you did was get a golf club, go in your backyard, or go to the driving range and try the Happy Gilmore swing. And everybody, I mean, I was in 7th grade or something, or 8th grade, and every single kid at the driving range that whole summer was running up and trying to smash the ball. Even to this day, it's like the iconic move. I think the big takeaway from this one is going to be the T flip. So obviously, the last scene of the movie, Billy Jenkins versus Happy Gilmore, 1,000-yard par 4. Billy Jenkins, smashes a 700-yard drive and looks at Happy, and then Happy just walks over and takes his tee, throws it right into the ground, standing straight up, and then drops the golf ball, bounces it right onto the tee, and goes, you can't do that. They don't teach you that in school, or whatever he says. And I think that tee flip is going to be the iconic thing. I think kids all over the country are going to be trying to like throw their tee into the ground. And that wasn't originally in the script. That all started organically because of Nick. So Nick is he's the second unit director for the movie. So second unit is basically like they do all the stuff with the I don't know, it's like the B crew throughout the movie. So whenever they're shooting the A scenes, he's off kind of doing background stuff and pickups and things like that. And Nick has really great style. He's also a golf sicko, and he wore a glove throughout the entire process of making the movie. So you see him there with his golf glove on, but he had perfected that. So, while we were waiting around, there's a lot of dead air on sets. He'd just be like taking a tee and just flipping it straight into the ground, like a knife, like right into the ground. And he could do it on a green. He could do it on a tight lie. I mean, he was like really, really good at it. So everybody just started copying him. And so like for weeks at a time, like the PAs and the grips and the teamsters are all like just have tees, and they're just like all day just like throwing tees in the ground. And so it just like organically became this thing. We all got really good at it, and all the pros were trying it. They hadn't learned how to do it, but we decided to put it in the movie. So in the big final scene, Adam just throws it down, and then we had a little CGI to bounce the ball onto the tee, but the tee flip was real. So I think that'll be the big takeaway, and you can't knock it. Some kind of swaggy moment on a tee, you definitely can't knock that.
I love that, man. Well, listen, dude, congratulations on an amazing premiere, a fantastic film. Everyone, if you haven't seen Happy Gilmore 2, sorry, we spoiled a lot of it if you got into this part in the podcast, but go watch it on Netflix immediately. What's next, Chad? Like, are you making another movie, making another TV show?
Well, we got Full Swing season 4. We're in production on. We are headed to the Ryder Cup here in the end of the summer. Now finished with all the majors, so we've got the FedEx Cup coming up and the playoffs, and then obviously the Ryder Cup. So season 4 of Full Swing, huge focus on the Ryder Cup. It's going to be, you're going to see more access than I think we've ever had to that event. It's going to be electric in Bethpage. We've got another big TV project that we're doing that I can't talk about yet, but it's really exciting. That kind of has to do with the Ryder Cup. So really pumped about that. That'll be announced here in the next couple weeks. And, just staying busy. So if you're listening to this podcast, you know that ProShop has acquired Golf WRX, which is one of my favorite golf websites. It's one of the first golf websites I became obsessed with. It's been around for like 20 years. It's kind of the ultimate like gearhead website. I've been on the forums. I bought clubs in the classifieds. I've been a part of that community for maybe 15 years, and just so excited to have that part of the family alongside Scratch. And I can't wait for everybody to see what we do with Golf WRX. It's an icon, and I can't wait to just help it grow and invest in it and take it to the next level. So I'm really pumped about that. So, staying busy, my man. I'm actually heading out after this podcast wraps. I'm like literally going to pack up and head to the airport. I'm going to be in Italy for 2 weeks. Keep the clubs down, not touch a club for 2 weeks. Then I get back and it's our club championship. So we'll have some stories about that. and then I got a nice little golf trip I've been looking forward to out to Long Island to, one of the great golf courses in America, to go play a little bit there. So that'll be fun. By the way, I got to find a golf gift for my host. So this is going to be a good thing. If you're listening to this, like, what's the greatest gift you've ever received if you've hosted somebody for golf? And this is a guy who's got everything, so I don't really know what to get him. I'm trying to figure out like what would be a nice gift to bring him, who's hosting me at this outing he's doing at an amazing sort of top 10 golf course. So if you got any ideas, I'd love to hear it.
All right, hit us up at Vanity Index Podcast on Instagram. DM us with any of your suggestions, questions, comments, and any potential guests you want us to have coming up in the coming weeks. We've got some really good episodes coming for you, so please stick around. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Vanity Index Podcast. Chad, a job well done. Thanks for making golf cool again, my man.
Thanks, buddy. This was great. Can't wait to see it when I get back.
Yeah, have fun in Italy, you jerk.
I'll do my best.